Hey everybody, it's Mike from Overground here, and welcome back to the next episode of our Rainbow series. This is where we show off the decks that we built based off of what we pulled out of our boxes. We're going through each individual color one at a time, going through our favorite strategies and favorite builds that we've been able to build, I guess. That's how it works. Last episode, we showed you the doom and gloom and despair and agony and darkness and pain that was purple, and today we're gonna show you the light, and we're gonna go to a more angelic and softer and harmonious approach with yellow. Now, as you may or may not know, if you've been watching this channel for, well, I guess since the beginning, yellow is probably one of my favorite color. Patamon and all of his angelic forms are probably one of my favorite Digimon lines in the entire franchise, so the fact that I can build a deck around him is wonderful. Unfortunately, this isn't the deck's full potential and full power, as we're still missing out a lot of cards from the Shine Greymon package that kind of unlocks yellow and kind of brings it into the forefront. But this is the best version of the deck I could build based on what I currently own and currently have at my disposal in the card pool. Now, I'm just going to preface this by saying I'm not playing the Petermon Tinkermon package. It's just not for me. I'm just not a big fan of it. I feel like the deck has a different win condition that I'm going to be outlining as we proceed through the video. So, we're going to go with the Digi-Eggs, and we're going to start with 3 Tokomon and 2 Cupimon. So, I'll be honest, the Digi-Egg options in this deck aren't very great. Unfortunately, we don't have the Yellow Upamon yet, which is arguably the best one, so we kind of just got to make do. The funny thing is that the way these babies kind of work is that their inheritables are kind of counteractive to what the deck's overall strategy is. So I'll explain what that means. So Tokomon, once per turn, if opponent's DP is deleted by dropping to 0, the Digimon that is attached to Tokomon gets plus 1000 for the turn. However, with Cupimon, it's when you're attacking, if you have 5 or more security cards, you get to draw 1. Cupimon is probably arguably the strongest. However, I find, especially in testing, that I'm never usually at 5 or more when I'm at a point where I feel safe attacking. So this rarely triggers. And Tokomon, the great irony with Tokomon is that the way this deck plays is that I'm more interested in reducing my opponent's DP, not necessarily to 0, but to a point where I can then attack over their Digimon safely. And so I'm never actually going to trigger this Tokomon. Well, and even if I do, the attack gain is negligible, because if I've reduced the Digimon to 0 to a point where it has been deleted, I'm usually just going to go after their security at that point anyway. And that extra 1000 often does not make a difference at the end of the day. But that is it for the Digi-Eggs. I'm just playing the 3-2 split. The more I test with this deck as we round off the end of the 1.0 format, I might change the lineup, but this is just kind of what I'm rocking right now. So we're going to go into the rookies. So as everyone knows, Patamon is my favorite. We've already established this. And I understand that I'm contradicting myself by showing this Patamon first. I just claimed that the Tokomon effect is negligible for when I drop my opponent's DP to 0 because I'm more interested in running over their Digimon, and yet here I am showing this Patamon that has the inheritable. When a DP drops to 0, I gain 1 memory. I'm still trying to play that similar Shine Greymon strategy where I'm trying to control the board by reducing my opponent's DP to 0. However, this is a much stronger effect and a stronger reward for doing so than with the Tokomon, for example, because by gaining that 1 extra memory, depending on how many Digimon I have in play that currently have a Patamon under them, that allows me to continue my turns, allows me to play stronger cards, etc., etc. I've gone over this Patamon in length in every Shine Greymon deck profile that I've done on the channel so far. The only difference is this one's not a proxy anymore. So the next rookie, again, keeping on with that same theme, for Labramon. So this is the version of Patamon instead where if the DPs drop... Oh, that's a little crooked. If the DPs drop to 0, I get to draw a card. This is the main kind of consistency package in this deck. This is how I'm going to be able to dig through my deck for more cards to be able to kind of keep the train going. Again, look, it's not a proxy. So now we're going to go into the next rookie, or rookies rather, and that is 4 Salamon and 2 Tsukaimon. So again, this just goes part and parcel with the 2-cost strategy that we've discussed in earlier builds, like the Gallantmon build, for example, where we just want to have as many 2-cost rookies as possible that allow us to kind of memory choke our opponent where necessary, but not so many to the point where we would have multiples of the same name in play and would lose to something out like an Omnimon, for example. So that is it for the rookies. You just kind of need the rookies to make the world go round in the beginning stages of the game. So now we're going to go into the champions. So we're playing 3 rather. My mistake. That's right. I changed it last minute. Aha, I surprised myself. So 3 Repamon. So again, this is just a 2-cost champion, just to kind of roll into your higher evolutions. And then we're playing 4. This one's at 4. 4 Unimod. This is the blocker of the deck. Not much really much to say about it. You need blockers to survive. The next is 3 Caesarmon, and this is a bit of a strange addition, but I'm going to explain kind of why he's here. And he's here because mostly he has jamming. Yellow as a strategy isn't very aggressive, especially in the early game. So what Caesarmon does is allow you to kind of take a couple of your opponent's security cards early. So because yellow thrives in the late game, because at that point you have amassed enough cards and enough advantage to the point where you can just start slowly whittling down your opponent's board. So in the early game, you don't really have a lot of options and you just kind of need to survive. And what Caesarmon does, it allows you to knock out some of your opponent's security to be as aggressive as possible early on. So by the time you hit that late game, you can just kind of close it out. And the last 2 champions, this was the change I made, is 2 of the rare set 1 Angemon. And this is the one where on play you get to reduce 3000 DP from one of your opponent's Digimon. Now 3000 isn't a lot, but again this kind of goes in tandem with the early game discussion, whereas once my opponent promotes a rookie or plays at a rookie, if they're trying to go wide, I can just immediately slam that Angemon down, shut that shit down, and then I can trigger my Patamons and my Labramons to further my game state. So that is it for the champions. Now we're going to go into the ultimate lineup, and that's a much thinner lineup. So we're playing 4 Sirenmon. This is just because she's the cheapest ultimate for yellow that they have at their disposal right now. And yeah, that's really all there is to it. The DP cost, and the play cost is negligible. You're trying to evolve with her as much as possible so you can step into your megas. And then the last ultimates we're playing, there are 3 Angemon. This is the one from the starter deck. This lets you stay in the game. When you digivolving, if you have 3 or less security cards, you get to trigger recovery 1. So the point of this deck is to play a balancing act, and you're playing this dance with your opponent where you're trying to limit their ability to keep cards on the field with your DP reduction effects, but you're also trying to make sure that you stay alive long enough that you can continue to do so, and then you get to a point where they've exhausted all of their resources, and then you just make a big push for game. And Angemon kind of helps you stay alive in that respect. And then finally we have 1 Magna Angemon and 1 Mistimon. Ideally, this would be 2 to 3 Magna Angemon, but we only pulled 1. It makes me so sad and it hurts my heart. We managed to pull 6 goddamn Omnimons, but we only got 1 Magna Angemon out of 8 boxes. So, yeah, Magna Angemon, again, I've talked over it at length in past Shine Greymon deck profiles. It's one of the best cards in yellow. Hard play 7, but you just get to trigger recovery 1 right out of the gate. This goes hand in hand with the Angemon, just lets you stay in the game a little bit longer, and it provides an ultimate body for you to step up into right away. And the inheritable that it brings to the table is that the Digimon that it evolves from it gains 1000 for every 3 security cards that you have. And then finally, Mistimon. Mistimon is basically the rare Angemon times 2. So whereas Angemon was a 5 cost to reduce 1 Digimon's DP by 3000, this one is a 7 cost to reduce 2 of the Digimon by 3000. Ultimately, it's not great, but I just needed an extra. I had a flex spot for an ultimate. This could ultimately be a 4th Angemon as well, but I felt that this was kind of a good in dealing with certain stages of Rookie Rush. I know a lot of Rookie Rush decks, they'll have like 4000 plus DP, but if they do end up playing a 3000, this can kind of help you just kind of clear their board. It's kind of the yellow equivalent, a poor man's Volcanic Dramon for yellow. And finally, we're going to get to our ultimates. So the main win condition of this deck is Slash Angemon. We slashed him from the last Shine Gromon profile, but he's coming back at full force now because he's the only goddamn option we have. So Slash Angemon, we've discussed him. If you've seen our videos, you know we talk about Slash Angemon a lot. But when Digivolve, you reduce the Digimon by 8,000. So this, in combination with other things like the Mistimon or the Angemon as well, now you're getting to see where you can start actually reducing your Digimon's DP to a point where they can actually be destroyed. Unfortunately, unlike Shine Greymon, where you can kind of nuke a board in one card total, this version of the deck, this version of Yellow specifically, you need to burn at least 1 or 2 cards to get to that proper deletion effect where you can actually clear those threats successfully. Now, 8,000 is nothing to scoff at, but you're usually going to be knocking out a level 5 or less with Slash Angemon. But if you can combo it with any of the other reduction cards, hitting like 2,000 or 3,000 plus that 8,000, you could potentially knock out a level 6 or a Mega with it. But he's kind of your main win condition and kind of the main control piece of this centerpiece of this Yellow deck. So the next 2 Megas we're going to look at are 2 Seraphimon. And similar, again, to the whole recovery discussion that we've had, Seraphimon helps you stay alive. And what Seraphimon does is that when Digivolve, you get to recover 1. You don't need to have any prior anything set up in your security, having a specific requirement, I guess. You just get to recover 1. That's it. That's all. Bam. And then he gains security attack +1 if you have 3 or more security cards. So not only does it help you stay alive, but if he manages to keep you alive to a point where you've hit that 3 security threshold, he also kind of hits like a truck. And again, that goes hand in hand with the Caesarmon. He's kind of, you switch gears a lot with this deck, so you kind of go from a control strategy to an aggro strategy, and you kind of switch gears back and forth depending on A, what your hand looks like, and B, what the board looks like. And Seraphimon kind of helps you kind of shift, is another option to shift those gears. And finally, the last 2 Megas that we play, and it's kind of the secondary win condition of the deck, is 2 Kentorosmon. So what Kentorosmon brings to the table is kind of unique to Yellow and to this deck specifically. And what that does is that when he Digivolves, you can pick up to 5 of your opponent's Digimon and they gain security attack -2. So whereas all the recovery Digimon help you kind of stay alive and extend the game a little bit longer, what Kentorosmon does instead is it makes it so that not only have you stayed alive, but it literally puts a wall up on your opponent's side. They cannot penetrate your security. They cannot attempt to attack you in any way, shape, or form. And it keeps you alive even longer in a different way. So Kentorosmon's second effect is that when he is destroyed, one of your opponent's Digimon gets -11,000. So the thing with Kentorosmon is that people won't usually attack into him because then he'll trigger. So what you have to do instead is that you actually have to start ramming your Kentorosmons into your opponent's Digimon in order to trigger that. But again, it's kind of like a Yellow's version of retaliation in a sense, because it means that when your Kentorosmon does die, you're potentially taking something back with him. And even though 11,000 doesn't kind of hit the same heights or the biggest heights as you would see in the metagame, like Omnimon is 15,000 for example, again, when you combo this with something like the Angemon or the Slash Angemon or the Mistimon or any of the option cards that you're going to see later, you can kind of see how everything kind of comes together and congeals into this minus DP thing that can help you kind of take advantage of taking advantage of destroying your opponent's resources. So that is it for the Megas. Now we're going to look at the options. So the secondary win condition in the deck, not in Digimon form, is 7 Heavens. So this one is you get to reduce the Digimon by 10,000, and if it's in your security, you get to activate it. So unlike Glorious Burst, which hits for 12,000, this one actually activates in your security. Oh, that's a little crooked, so we'll fix that. So yeah, 7 Heavens. It's a good card in terms of helping you nuke something that you need to nuke, and in combination with the other DP reduction effects that we've discussed up to this point, should theoretically take something out for you. It's basically the Yellow poor man's Gaia Force that we're dealing with at this point, but I feel like 3 is a good number because you have the chance to throw it into your security, and then it kind of gives you advantage if your opponent decides to be very aggressive. And the last options that we're playing are just 2 Heaven's Charm. Again, this is just to bring everything full circle. Heaven's Charm, in combination with every other DP reduction effect that we've discussed up to this point, should theoretically finish someone off. And for a 2 cost, it's very efficient, and it helps you clear the board for when you're ready to make your aggressive pushes. And the final card in the deck that ties everything together is the 3 yellow TK. And again, we've discussed this TK at length, except this one's real now. And again, so just brief overview. If you have 2 or less memory, you set your memory to 3. And on play, you get to look at your security. You get to add one of those cards from your security to your hand, and then you get to recover 1. So what TK effectively does is that it tutors your entire deck, because you get to look through your security and add something that'll help you in that potential situation, or depending on what could help you in the next couple of turns, and it helps you add that to your hand. It helps you mitigate the RNG system that Digimon creates. And you can actually see, like, if you got like a bunch of these options, for example, you could leave them there knowing that your opponent could potentially attack into them and then fall victim to the 7 stars, for example. And then with the Heaven's Charm, you have the potential to add to your hand as well. So a bunch of things activate in your security. If you have extra TKs as well, you could leave them in there, because that'll give you ability to play it for free, and then you can add something else from your security later on. TK is not as strong in this version of the deck compared to the Shine Greymon deck, obviously, because there's a lot less high impact cards that you can take, but this will help you just kind of take what you need in a weird, slow toolbox way. So yeah, that is it for my take on the yellow deck. This is what I have been testing out of the set 1 meta and out of what we ended up pulling. It's not fantastic, I'll be the first to admit. However, I have been able to eke out a couple games with it. Again, if I just had extra Magna Angemons, I just would have been so much happier. But unfortunately, you take what you can and you work with what you got, and this is what I got. So, this is the latest episode of the Rainbow series. I hope you've enjoyed watching this. I hope you've enjoyed kind of my take and explanation on Yellow now. When we get 1.5, Yellow will be better. We can fix it. We will have the technology. But for now, I will grit my teeth and bear it, and I will play with TK, my son, as much and as often as I can. So this has been Mike from Overground. Take care, everybody.